Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
What are we talking about today, Tara?
We are talking about part 2 in the first Crescent City book. So
Yay!
A House of Earth. Wait, it's right behind Sandra. Let me try and read it. Earth and
Blood.
I can't read that well, guys. It's hard being in a book podcast if I can't read, but that's okay.
And we're coming off like that post-holiday crunch. So yes, life is fun.
And I'm going to disclaimer this because I read this book traveling. So I have no notes. None. So we're going to see how well I retain knowledge when I don't take my notes, my 5 pages of notes.
I believe in you, Tara. So part 1 ended with Bryce and Hunt going to the river and meeting up with Hunt's contact Therian, who is like captain of the Blue Court or something like that. And his little cute nickname for Bryce is as Legs. And we learn a little bit about Therian's background. Like he had a little sister who was murdered, and he's just kind of giving them the download of everything that he knows that's been happening. And so part 2 picks up with Hunt and Bryce coming back to the apartment, spending more time together, getting to know each other. Hunt gets a peek at Bryce's tattoo, and Bryce shares the Oracle story.
I mean, she doesn't tell him everything about what happened with the Oracle, but I think it's in a further discussion with her about her father too, and how after that he just kind of threw her out. I think that's what they were discussing, and she's like, "Yeah, I had a very bad Oracle experience."
Traumatizing. In fact,
very bad. Yeah, she's just kind of opening up. And one of my favorite things, and it comes up again, and I just love this, but it's when she was talking to Therian, like, Hunt was getting a little jealous, which was super funny to me. Like, because Therian was calling her Legs, and like he even made like a proposition to her. And Hunt's like, "Oh, is that all you've got?" Like, basically. And I thought that was funny, but then like she talked about like what brought her to the city in the first place, and it was the little otters that like she saw them, and like they deliver like packages for like Therian's court or whatever, and she's like, "I just wanted some time in my life to get one of those," and I feel like that's me.
Yes, that's totally you.
I would totally like move cities to be able to like get a little otter friend. On my vacation, I even like went up to these little like squirrels that were in like Washington DC, and I'm like, "I'm friend shaped, come here, I'm friend shaped," and they did come to me. And then Carly and Michael came over because they're like, "I want to play with the squirrel," and then Michael scared the squirrel off. But still, like the little squirrels were like coming up to me, and I'm like, "Oh." So yes, I feel like that would be me.
Tara Palazzolo, squirrel whisperer and otter messenger enthusiast. Yes, you would definitely move to Crescent City to get some otter mail.
Yes. And Therian even said, "Oh, I'll make sure you get one. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Yes."
And like, he fulfilled that promise too. Later, as we will see, he is a good boy.
At that point, there has been some growth with Hunt and Bryce's relationship. And so he wasn't jealous. I thought that was so sweet that he was just like watching her face light up and like the joy that she got out of getting this otter mail. And like, he didn't even care that Therian was the one who brought her the joy, but just that the joy was there. And I loved that for Hunt.
That's one of my favorite aspects of the relationship between Hunt and Bryce is that just the growth that they share together. I mean, he does a complete 180 in how he feels about Bryce because he was there at her lowest low when her best friend, soon to be guy that she was dating, all of the people that she loved and was, close friends with got murdered. She was like high on drugs, had this party girl reputation. I mean, he was there for all of that. Believed the rumors himself. And then 2 years later, he sees how empty she is inside and how depressed she is and what a shell of a person she is. And for him to just like change how he thinks about her because he knows that Bryce has just been pretending to be this person that everyone wants to believe that she is and not defending herself. So he sees that in her. And for him to appreciate other people giving her that kind of joy, even though they are, kind of a rival or competition romantically, it just says so much about him. I really like that kind of adult relationship between the two of them.
And I think he's catching on that there's a reason she's hiding that, and not just that she's hiding it because she wants to let everybody else believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And we do find out at the end that he didn't know the full extent of that. But I think he's catching on that there is something behind it.
Yeah.
She's not just doing that because she wants to like let everybody else believe that. It's that there is a altruistic reason behind it.
Yes. I mean, we can go ahead and talk about some of it now because it all is just kind of intermingled, right? All of this growth stuff is happening in parallel to them doing this investigation into Danika's past and what happened that night. And so we find out more about Bryce, like her after all this shit with the pack of wolves happened and the Crystallos demon back then, that she was bullied so cruelly. That song being written about her, like Danika was like a celebrity in Crescent City, and Bryce was her best friend. And so Bryce was just,
So after Danika died, all their text messages were released. And the one that everybody like hung on to was the one that she had sent Danika right before she went home, which is, I just hooked up with this guy in the bathroom. Don't tell Connor. Which is also the reason that Ethan is pissed. Because he's like, while my brother was getting massacred, you were sleeping around. Like, after he had basically just told you that he loved you. And so Ethan is, like, holding this grudge to no end. All because her private messages were released. Like, it was mentioned in there that it was like she was owned by Connor once he told her that he loved her. Like they were like mates or whatever. And the wolf pack and Ethan and everybody else thought of her as his property. Even though she didn't like agree to being his property. She like somewhat agreed to a date.
Yeah.
To see where
casually.
But now she's his property and like she is being blamed for living her life.
It's classic slut shaming.
Yeah, because she was supposed to act a certain way because she somewhat agreed to try things with Connor. And like that part pissed me off. I'm like,
yeah,
you don't own her. She doesn't owe you anything. Like there's been no talks about exclusivity. She said she might be open to trying. That's it. But everybody is holding her to this preconceived notion of what she should have done once she agreed to try with Connor and making up songs. And even Emily or Amelia,
Amelie.
what was her name?
Amelie.
Whatever her name is, she is like on my list. Every year, Bryce has got the like croissants, the like chocolate croissants that Danika used to love getting on her birthday, and went and like had her moment with Danika on Danika's birthday, right? And this year she wrote trash on them. Amelie did. And that's what like they have been calling Bryce since this happened. And you just see how much the pack that was supposed to be her friends, was supposed to care about her, like turned, all because of this stupid little text about don't tell Connor and their notion that she belonged to him. And then also Amelie like is pissed because Connor chose Bryce over her. And it just makes you like feel so bad for Bryce. And she's just taking it. She's not retaliating. She's not trying to clear her name. She's not doing anything. She's just letting them destroy her piece by piece. You feel bad for her. Or at least I did. And if you didn't, I don't know if you have a heart.
Like, are you human? Yeah. I mean, to be at a level, just being in that kind of spotlight, being best friends with Danika, and then feeling like this pack of devils and even just the greater werewolves, the shifters yourself are a part of your greater family, and then it just not being the case. It's so overwhelming for Bryce. And it's not even just that loss that gets to her. It's her whole little friendship group like breaks up in a way because Danika was kind of the glue that held them all together. And then you just kind of have Fury just being MIA, not talking to her ever in the group chat. And then there's Juniper too. And then even Juniper's friendship kind of changes with Bryce because Juniper has to be kind of on high alert in a way because Bryce is in such a deep, dark place. And Bryce doesn't want to be even more of a burden, so it just makes her distance herself more.
And you also have like Sabine, who is Danika's mom, who they went to visit during their investigation, and they accused her of being the person that killed Danika because she's the one who changed the audio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sabine is still so mad at Bryce for, in her words, bringing out the worst in her daughter and for being a half-breed, basically. Like, she wasn't worthy of her daughter. And so you also have that, you're best friends with Danika, who is like this celebrity. And had she even just been a full blood, like that would be bad enough. But she's also this half blood that everybody looks down upon anyway. And so compared to Danika, like Danika's way up here and Bryce is like way down here. And you have even more of a like imbalance to how everybody's going to look at Bryce after the fact because they already looked down on her, even when Danika was around.
Danika being around just kind of scared everybody else into shutting their mouth about it. It was more of like everyone just saying the rumors behind their back, but it was still going on. But I was so happy when Hunt came to Bryce's defense because after he found out about this trash being written across the chocolate croissants, he goes to the Black Roses headquarters essentially and confronts Amelie and freaking chokes her out against a wall pretty much. And Ethan is there, and which is such a weird reunion for Bryce. Like, you're in Bryce's perspective and she's just having like this meltdown internally, like, oh, I can't do this, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna throw up, like, because her and Ethan used to be so close. Like, he was like a little brother to her, and like they just used to crack jokes and text and call each other all the time. She'd go to his Sunball games, and now he just looks at her with disgust and hatred. And so it's such an overwhelming moment, but Hunt comes to Bryce's defense knowing that he will be punished by the governor of the city. Yes, very severely, as we will see, and like still does that. And that just speaks so much to Hunt, like who he is. And we already know he's a very principled person, especially joining this rebellion and doing all of the things that he did that went along with that and what he lost. So that's nothing new for him, but he's just that strength that Bryce needs. And that obviously gets Bryce to open up to him. And she talks about the night that she thought about ending her life and just walking over this, the edge of the roof and just putting an end to it. And like that part made me cry. Like, I was so emotional.
Well, did she actually tell him about that night? Because like when the final events happen and she calls him, or maybe it was Rune that didn't know that it had gotten that bad.
Rune didn't know. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, somebody didn't know. And they're like, it gutted them that it had gotten that bad.
She did end up opening to Hunt about it because of him sticking his neck out for that. I don't know if it was after he got his wings chopped off, as which was horrible.
Which was the punishment. So Sabine, being Sabine, wanted to punish Bryce and chose Hunt to do that. Basically, chose to give Bryce one more thing to feel bad about, which is that she demanded Hunt be killed. And Micah said no to that. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that, but I will kill him in a different way, which was to cut off his wings. And so he cut off his wings while Bryce begged not to do that. And so then, yeah, we get him recuperating and her like taking him into the shower. Or no, that was after he was forced to kill somebody else, right?
Yeah.
The drug lords.
Micah from all this time is saying you're going to owe back all these lives that you took in the war. And so you're going to go out there and kill all these bad people, drug dealers and shit in my city. But everything he starts doing to Hunt is almost like payback or revenge, for Hunt undermining his authority, is how he sees it.
I forgot what Hunt did in that situation. Oh, he wasn't working fast enough. Right?
Yeah, and it was the Sabine thing pissed him off too.
Yeah, he had like they accused Sabine of being the murderer or whatever.
Without
And so that
evidence.
was Hunt's punishment for that is he had to go kill these drug lords that we find out that they were drug lords later, right? And so he does it and he comes home and it's like another little piece of his soul has like died. And he gets in the shower and Bryce comes in with him and like starts cleaning him, and like she had noticed that he had the water so hot that like his skin was being burnt off, but because he's an angel, like it's healing, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
just keeps being reburnt off and reburnt off and reburnt off. And so she like turned it down so she didn't scald herself. And starts washing him and like puts him in bed and like takes care of him. And he notices that. And he like I think that's the point that he even opens up a little bit later about like the last time he had that was with his mom. And he opened up about his mom and like how she died and like that she was a maid for these higher up angels, and because he was a bastard born, like he didn't have his father in his life, she was looked down upon, and like I think she got sick or something, and nobody gave a crap that she died, and that really like told him something about how they felt about him, and that Shahar was the first person to like not look at him like he's less than because he was a bastard born. And so that's where his love for her started. And so he's opening up about all this stuff, and then Bryce opens up about her own like struggles and like feeling like less than when her dad decided she wasn't worthy.
It's after this night that Bryce helps Hunt in the shower and get him to bed and it's like taking, care of him. It was a very motherly scene, the way she nurtured him with his head in her lap and that kind of thing. She ends up sneaking out of the house and going to the night garden just because she's like in her thoughts and feelings and stuff. And she gets attacked by a Crystallos demon. And luckily, Hunt finds her, but he does get injured from this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the point where Micah turns up at the garden, and he already was exhibiting very sketchy behavior in just how he treated Hunt and some of the things that he says to him. But Micah ends up burning the body of the Crystallos demon, which is just like, okay. So that was like one of the first firm times you're just like very suspicious of him.
Well, especially because they were trying to use that Crystallis to then find out information. And this is what Micah has said the whole time that he's after, is finding out this information, yet he's burning the body that could give them more information on who's bringing it to the world, right? And so you get this like, he's saying he's after one thing, but he is actively like making that harder.
Yes. And he's making everything seem like it's about the summit, like trying to get this all bowed up and completed before the summit and the Asteri and all of this, because the summit happens every 10 years. It's a big deal. All the who's of the entire world is at this convention. And so it's just a lot of things that he's saying aren't adding up. And then, Hunt and Bryce leave, and we get a little scene with a med witch that keeps appearing in the book. A very educated, beautiful med witch.
Who Ruin is filling.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Hi. Yeah, I'll help you.
Rune has been this way even after being betrothed to, the witch.
So I don't think he's actively betrothed. Like, I think his dad told him that he should get betrothed. And Ruin's like, no, we're good. And his dad, like, well, shit's about to happen and the Fae are losing our powers and like we need allies, so like you're going to. But Ruin, I think, is still like, am I? Like, I think he's still pushing. Like, so I don't think it's like official. And I also don't think that because we meet this lady later on and she's like, no, it's not official. I still get to make my own decisions, right? And so I don't think it's official. To his like defense, like he's feeling this other chick and he's not officially betrothed. Okay? He's not he's not breaking rules.
I like Rune because he's just such an apathetic leader. Like he refuses to assimilate to courtly behavior and expectations and just continues being like the head of their auxiliary, but just, partying and sleeping with whoever he wants, just being friends with, Declan and Flynn and their frat house equivalent, basically.
Yeah. Well, and he feels so bad for how things ended with Bryce. Like,
Mhm.
you get more of the stories of him when they were younger and how much he loved that he had a little sister. And like his oracle vision did not go well either. And he was basically told that he would be the last of the royal line, right? And he took that to mean if my sister is accepted as a royal, she will die. And so, like, you see both of them trying to protect each other so hard without telling each other that it just like goes against each other. And like Bryce feels like he doesn't think of her because he doesn't want her to be acknowledged as his sister. And he's
Mhm.
doing that because he doesn't want his sister to die. He loves her and he doesn't want his dad to like hate her. And she's telling him to watch out for his dad because he kills like Starborn, like the Starborns die and like their dad doesn't like him and blah blah blah. And so they're trying to both protect each other the only ways they know how, but end up hurting each other to do that. Like knowing that backstory makes you feel for him because he's only doing what he thinks is best, but he's getting punished for it.
Yeah. I mean, that backstory just further seals why Bryce is so against like the whole alpha whole thing, especially with her father and how
Mhm.
he treated the mom. It's just another thing that supports that thinking, right? And even after this whole oracle debacle and Rune treating her like trash, basically, when she was
Mhm.
13, Ember gets fucking pissed off and is just like, see, this is why I wanted you guys to have nothing to do with Bryce because I wanted to protect her from being treated like she is less than and in some way inferior to you guys.
And what did you think about the king's like he implies heavily that he was in love with Ember
He
and that he would
does.
have made her his queen. And like I don't know that I believe him.
I think he is keeping secrets. I think he knows stuff about Bryce and or Ember. I think he loves power and knowledge, right? And I
Mhm.
think he loves the things that will earn him though more of that. And so I think he honestly believes that, but whether it's objectively
Well, he
true,
already has a wife.
I know. I'm
Like,
like,
right?
what were you gonna do?
Like
Kill her
Ruin's
off?
mother.
And
Like, like I don't know that like you would be willing to make that sacrifice. Like not that he loves his wife, but
yeah, she's a doormat.
like
Yeah.
like how would he like get rid of her where he still comes out looking good,
Yeah. How
right?
would he get
Like
rid of her?
her relatives are pretty high up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how would he get rid of her to then marry this half human or like this full human and still come out looking good? That's where I'm like I don't think he actually would have done that.
Yeah. Every action that he's had up until this point proves otherwise. It doesn't align with what he
Yeah.
says.
And but it does make a lot of sense, like you said, he loves power because when she took like the little test, Bryce did, she had no power, which also made it very easy for him to be like, meh, like go
And he's
away. Like you're not
ashamed.
worth it to me.
He thinks it's
Yeah.
a reflection, a black mark against him and his power. So that's why he's just discarded her like garbage.
Yeah.
But because she was barely a blip on the chart or whatever, which
Hmm.
interesting.
So then like we continue with this investigation and Hunt is
Mm-hmm.
like severely hurt because it takes like weeks to grow back these wings. And he does something else to piss Micah off, doesn't he? Because that's how he gets sold. What else did he do to piss Micah off?
To get sold off, him, Justinian, and Victoria, he
Oh,
got
yes.
caught. He was trying to back out of his original plan, which was to
Yeah.
betray Bryce, which it's like, God damn it.
So Therian, like, unknowingly tells Bryce, like, hey, shit's going down.
Synth drug deal. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before that, we find out that there is this drug that is being released onto the like world, and we find this out because Bryce puts it together that Danika left her something in her coat,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like this little flash drive, and on the flash drive there are videos of humans being injected with this drug and it giving them powers. And then they go insane and kill themselves, right? And so the powers were tested by putting in like veneers and letting the human kill them, like prisoners, which I also thought was like incredibly crazy. Like, even though they're prisoners, they still like sent them into their death knowing that that is the only thing that they were going to get out of that is see them die. So like these humans are killing like people with powers, right? So they're trying to track this drug, and then the little med witch comes in. She's like, I think that the venom from these crystallis demons is what is or can stop magical powers, right? And we saw this in Bryce a little bit, and we also saw this in Hunt because he couldn't use his lightning after that crystallis attacked Hunt and Bryce, right? And so this med witch is like, hey, I think we can use this venom to counteract the synth. And she was the first one that brought the synth to everybody's attention because she told Ruin that there's a drug coming on the market that I've heard does this. And then we see it some more with Danika's little videos. And then Therian also confirms that there was a drug deal right before Danika died, and Danika was on the boat. And so we're getting a sense that Danika was deep in some shit that she had never told Bryce about. And everybody is hinting at that Danika was the one selling this.
And doing it.
And that is how the pack of devils died, is Danika taking it and overdosing and basically killing the whole pack and then killing herself. And that's the reason on the audio we only hear her begging for her life and not anything else, not like what was killing them, not anything else, right? And so Bryce has been told by Therian that there's another drug deal going down, and he takes her to the boat. And we see Victoria, Justinian, and Hunt.
And the Viper Queen.
And the Viper Queen making this drug deal. The Viper Queen is giving the drugs to the three angels. And Bryce is beside herself because she feels like Hunt just chose like his long lost love. And this is after they got some spiciness. Like
he was injured
with some spiciness from his injury, right? And they left blood marks on her couch because of his injuries. Like they opened his injuries up with their spiciness, right? And so she is feeling very betrayed because she feels like even after that and even after all of the opening up they did to each other, that he chose Shahar over her. Shahar and their rebellion over her. Because what they were going to do with the synth is give it to the humans and let them have like even more of a chance of beating the angels in this rebellion. And so she throws the little joy stone that they got back at him and like just tells him he's on his own. Like she doesn't want to deal with him, like whatever. And Micah shows up, and that's how we find out that the Viper Queen has been in cahoots with Micah this whole time, trying to trap the three angels.
Yeah.
Or, well, two angels and the Wraith.
The whole scene is horrible because Hunt and Bryce have been making so much progress in how their relationship is developing. And then Hunt has the gall to be flaming these lies that Danika was a synth user and dealer, and she's the one responsible for these deaths, to the point where Bryce's whole like core of her being was questioned, and she was doubting everything and feeling lost again and kind of going down that spiral. And he just like lets her go down that road. So when Hunt picks the rebellion again, like that's the final blow for Bryce, and she becomes like pulls back and becomes that distant person again. But then we find out like she wants nothing to do with Hunt at this point. But then she hears, I think from Lihaba, right? Because Lihaba's like tuned in watching the news and stuff. And so she hears that Hunt is going to be punished by Micah, along with Justinian, sold back to Sandriel, Shahar's twin sister. And Sandriel, we all know, is just evil and cruel and going to never free him. And who knows what she'll make him do.
So we see that Justinian and Victoria have already been punished, right? Like horribly. Justinian was crucified and let to bleed to death, and Victoria was like pulled out of her body and put in this little box and like put under Justinian to like have his like blood just be like, I envision this like the noise, like, you know, if you're trying to sleep and like there's like just a little drip coming out of your water faucet and how annoying that is. But to then like know that that's your friend's blood
Yeah.
and like his life is like ending at that time and stuff. So yeah, it was just horrible what they got. And Hunt was even more, right?
Yes.
And so she knew Micah was going to punish him like the worst. And so our girl tries to find a way to keep him out of as much danger as she can. I think she first begs Micah, right? And Micah's like,
Yes.
there's nothing I can do. And then after he was sold to Sandriel, she goes and she does the two things that are allowed to be done. She asks to buy him and she offers more than what he was sold for in the first place. And everybody's like, how the fuck did she get this money?
97 million. Mm-hmm.
And Hunt knows how she got the money. And it was basically selling herself to Jesiba for even longer. And when Sandriel's like, no, she offers herself in his place. And I think like Sandriel, being the cruel person she was weighing like, can I hurt Hunt more by having him in my possession? Or can I hurt him more by having her in my possession? And so she like took a minute to weigh that and then tells her no.
Yeah. Bryce even offered her the $3 million amulet that she's always wearing.
And at that point, she like crushes it and throws it. And she's like, I think this is the point where she's like, did you not think that I knew who you were?
Yeah.
And Hunt's like, what are you talking about? Like, who is she? And like, she lets it out that she is the only daughter of the Autumn King. And Rune's like, uh-oh. And Hunt's like,
what?
Oh, it makes sense now because like Rune has been at her beck and call. Like this makes sense. like you're dumb, dude. Okay. Like, but that's okay. Like sweet little like at least you're cute, right?
Yeah, at least you got that going for you.
But so like she did all these things and Hunt is back under Sandriel's control and Bryce goes back to the like antique store, right? And she is faced with Micah at that point at the antique store because Micah has put two and two together that Danika did hide the horn where it would be the safest. And that is in the tattoo on Bryce's back. And the person that can use this is a star-born individual, right? And Danika knew all of Bryce's secrets, and she knew that Bryce would be the one to be able to be like use this, right? However, Micah has not picked up on that little tidbit of information, and so he uses his power to activate the horn. The whole time it wasn't really his power activating it, it was Bryce's. But still, we see him just being like cruel. And I don't even want to talk about the scene, so Sandra, you have to talk about the scene. Like I don't want to.
Micah puts it all together because once Sandriel destroyed, like melted that amulet that has been protecting Bryce all this time, the amulet was basically acting like a mask for like Bryce, like her essence or whatever you want to call it, has been masking her. But as soon as it's melted, it's like a red flag for whatever Crystallo's demon or whatever is hunting her to find her. So it's right after that scene where she tries to buy Hunt that she is attacked again, and Rune and his little posse, Declan and Flynn, help out and, you know, get her out of there. And so the summit is taking place by this point, and all the who's who are there. The Asteri with their leader, what is his name? Regulus or something like that. Jesiba is there, which we have to talk more about Jesiba.
But he's not there.
Oh, he's like videoed. They're video conferenced in, and Sandriel is there.
Like, emissary.
Yes, and there's, I mean, the Autumn King, all of the Fae, all of the shifters, but like Jesiba's background is very interesting.
And the queen of the witches is there, who happens to be the Med Witch. So I find this hilarious because Ruin is putting it together that, like, his dad wanted him to be married to the queen of the witches, right? Like, that was the betrothal that was, like, in the works. And he started falling for the med witch, and they're one and the same. So he's like, oh, that wouldn't be too bad. Like, that's fine. Let's do it.
Hypaxia, right? That's her name. Hypaxia. And she's such a lovable character. Like, she's so smart. She's into like the science and the spiritual, and is so like just she's brilliant.
Did she remind you of Irene?
She did remind. In fact, the whole part with her surgically removing the venom from Bryce's thigh, which has been masking other powers of Bryce's, was exactly like Irene and Kale, just like getting in there and just stripping it out.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was just like that. But Hypaxia is amazing, and I think it's even cute how the witches in this book like hop on their little broomstick and like fly away. Is very much, I think we've talked about this before, it's very much like in, what is it, Throne of Glass, like the good witches, not the Iron Teeth, but the other ones,
the little red coat or red cloaks.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. And she asks Hunt a very specific question about, if you were to have your crown removed, which is the thing that's holding him basically hostage, and it was put there by a witch, if you were to have that removed, what would you do? And during that scene, I'm like, oh, she can remove it. She knows she can remove it. She's just testing him. Like, if I do this, what are you going to do? Like, I feel like you're worthy of me removing this, but are you? And that was right after she had removed the venom from Bryce and she saw their connection. And I think she also knows what Bryce is. Like, I think she has also picked up on that, which we will find out later, but I think she has picked up on it and she's like, Bryce is worthy. Are you? Like, Bryce has deemed you worthy, but I need to know that you're worthy of Bryce and also of me removing this. And so she asks, and I'm like, ooh, I like you. You're so smart and like caring about other people. Like, you can tell she's not just about the witches, she's about everybody.
Yeah. I think I remember she's just so damn perceptive. I think in the beginning, I was very unsure, especially the first time I read it, because she kept popping up at the crime scene. I'm like, okay, what is this? What is your end game here? Are you trying to find the horn yourself? But the fact that she helps Bryce like that, and the way that she asked Hunt that question, it was like, oh, she is one of the good ones. She is totally on the rebel side, or would be, if given the choice.
Well, and I was suspicious of the queen of the witches, because we've had some very bad experiences if you have read Throne of Glass with the witches, right? And so I was very suspicious because we've only heard like little bits about her, and like all of this is going down and she's just like nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I was very suspicious of the queen. And so then when I figured out that they were the same, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no. Bitch is gonna get shit done.
Yeah, she is.
So I loved that.
And back to Micah. So after this Crystallis attacks her, after he puts it together, he just magically appears at the gallery. And Lihaba is just like, oh, fuck. Because they're down in the basement where the secret library is with all the important tomes that Jesiba keeps. And he is already inside the gallery, making his way down the steps very sinisterly. And so Bryce is having an oh, fuck moment. Like, now she's put it together that it was him all along. And so she does some really shrewd, very Aelin type things, which is, okay, I'm going to fucking like video stream this to the fucking summit so that everyone can bear witness to what's about to happen if I fucking get murdered right now. And she is like stalling, trying to pass time. She's motioning to like Lihaba to try and get her and Syrinx out of there. And shit just hits the fan.
She calls Jesiba too, or messages her.
Yes. So everyone at the summit is just like watching on this big screen. It's like I kept picturing like a massive movie theater, and everyone is just watching like the last moments of Bryce's life as Micah is there. And Sabine, or is it Sabine? No, Sandriel's like trying to play it off and all this stuff. Like, oh, he's just doing whatever it is he does. We know that it's going to take 30 minutes for the fastest person to get there by chopper. Oh, Fury's at the summit too. Forgot to mention that part because Fury is like a top assassin in this world. And so Bryce is doing all these things. Well, then fucking Micah never go for the damn pet, okay? He throws the poor baby chimera in the knock aquarium tank thing. And this creature gives me the heebie-jeebies.
So did you get very strong, like, what's the Keanu Reeves movie where the dog dies in the very beginning?
John Wick. Yeah, first John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick. Very strong John Wick vibes from Bryce after this moment. But, okay, so I want to go back to, like, there was a moment where Fury, like, looked at Micah after the punishment, and if she was like, if you mess with her again, I will come after you. To Micah, and I was like, ooh, damn, Fury, like, are you that powerful? Like, are you able to kill an archangel? Archangel? I said that right. I was like, did I say that? And get away with it? And she said it like she was, so.
I love the roller coaster of emotions that Tara goes through with like Fury and Bryce's friends, because like at first they're like, oh, it's this girl crew, and then like Fury is just like dead to Bryce. Yeah, like you're nowhere to be found, and she obviously needs you. She's mourning and grieving. And then like Fury's back and forth. But we learn that Fury is like together with Juniper, like they're romantically involved, and Bryce had no idea, which is just another hit blow to Bryce, right? Because she's just like, how can I be friends with you guys for this many years and you've been keeping this from me? Like, come on. Like, come on.
And the way that like Fury tells her is like, it was kind of funny in the book because like Bryce is lighting into her about like, you left me, like, and Fury's like, yeah, I left everybody. And she's like, you didn't, Juniper. And like, Fury's like, well, I have a different relationship with Juniper. And Bryce is like, no, you don't. We were all friends. And like, Fury's like, no, I really have a different kind of relationship with Juniper. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, she didn't come out and just say like, we are together. She's like, we have a different relationship than like we do.
Yeah, it made me wonder if Juniper has been trying to find the perfect time to let Bryce know. And so Fury was trying to find that balance between, you know, keeping it a secret for the sake of Juniper, but also not like lying to Bryce.
Well, and like Juniper, you see this whole time that Juniper has been there trying to get Bryce back to herself. And so I think like having another secret come out, I think Juniper was afraid that that would just send her over the edge. And she's already had to stop her from jumping off a building once. Yeah. So she didn't want to have to do that again. So I thought that that was funny when Fury told her like, what it is. But anyway, back to the Chimera, little Syrinx in like this pit with this monster thing that is, like Sandra said, just creepy. And he's like, the knock just let him like float down to the bottom because he was like using him as bait, basically. He's like, I'm like, I don't want to kill that thing. It's gonna die anyway. But like, I know Bryce, because I've been watching her, is gonna jump in here to save him, and then I have what I want, like a bigger prize. But if I eat him, she's not gonna jump in here. So like, I need to leave him alone so that she'll jump in here.
Isn't the way the knock described kind of reminiscent of the Kelpie that gets Nesta in its clutches in the bog a little bit?
But it's worse because like they had a Kelpie in that tank before the knock. And Bryce even mentions like, I hated the Kelpie, but I hate this thing more.
Yeah.
So like it's a step up from even that, which is crazy. Yeah. So Micah is tormenting her.
Yeah. Liahaba uses her wits to find a spell book and essentially locks Micah in the bathroom for as long as possible while Bryce dives into this fucking tank. I'm like trying to picture how big this tank is to fetch Syrinx's poor little body. And then she's trying to resuscitate Syrinx, right?
Mhm.
And then like shit starts getting very real when Lihaba is like, Micah is about to burst through the door. And then there, Lihaba is like, we don't have any time. We have to get up the stairs. Like, you have seconds. You literally have seconds. Like, pick up Syrinx, go now. Everyone's watching this play out on the screen. And Bryce knows, like, turns around, and Lihaba is just like saying her goodbyes, essentially. And like, from this point on, this was like chapter 79 or something, but it's from this until the end of the book, Tara, I was emotionally destroyed because why Lihaba? She is like comic relief. She is so adorable. She's just such a good friend. I'm just, ah.
So basically what she does is she uses her like little bit of power that she has, and she breaks the like glass, the water thing, and lets it come out in waves to stop Micah from going up the stairs and to give just a few seconds to Bryce to go get the Godslayer gun and get it together so that she can shoot Micah, which she does. Like, he ends up dead, and then she just vacuums him up. Like,
I know, wasn't that funny?
I was like, yes. I was like, yes. Like, I needed that after, like, poor little Lahaba. So she is saying, like, I am the descendant of, like, the queen, and I will, like, my friends are here with me, and I will, like, save them, basically. And, like, she just keeps repeating that as she's, like, sending her power and, like, punching and, like, trying to get this glass tank to break. And like right before it, like this is the part that got me. Like, it's not that she died, but the part right before it where Bryce is like, but you're free. I paid for you. Like, you are free. You can go. Go. Get out of here. Go. And like she goes, I know. I looked through your drawer. Like, this is my choice. I know it is. I looked through your drawer. And like, I don't know, that part got me because like
It was such a
she
Lihaba
knew
thing to
Bryce
do.
loved her so much that she would put herself, and again, Bryce keeps putting herself out to save the people she loves. Like, she would have sold herself or like did sell herself to Jesiba to save Hunt. She did sell herself to save the Chimera. She did give up her eternal rights to like the like bone quarter
The Underking.
to allow Danika to go there, right? And so she keeps selling like these little pieces of herself to save her friends. And like Lily has told her, like, you did this for him. Why haven't you done this for me? And like Bryce is trying the whole time. And so when she notices her drawer, she knows that Bryce did in fact do it. And like she felt that love. And Bryce is like, you're free. Like, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to save the books. You don't have to save like me. Go.
It's so telling for both of the characters, right? But it's also telling for
Mhm.
Bryce because she honestly thought that Lihaba was just in her life out of obligation, like an
Mhm.
enslavement. Like their relation was Jesiba, and that once that bond was severed, she would go her merry way and have her own life. But that just simply wasn't the case because that isn't who Lily is. It's just, yeah, when Bryce was just like, I was planning on throwing you a surprise party to celebrate and da da da, and then I mean, Lihaba's a little fire sprite. The first time she gets dunked in water, like her life force is snuffed out, like she
Is.
is gone.
Yeah.
It was just, I was so sad. But yes, I was with you. The vacuuming up Micah's ashes was like some much needed comic relief.
I also loved when she was like she killed Micah with the Godslayer gun, but then she went a step further and like mutilated the fuck out of his body because she's like, this one's for Hunt, and like
Hmm.
chopped his head in half and then chopped it off. She's like, this one's for Lily, and like it just like mutilated the fuck out of him. And like everybody's watching her like go to town with Danika's knife And she's like, this one's for the pack, this one's for Danika. And they're just like watching her like get her cathartic like release out of this. And they know that he has given her the synth that is in fact going to kill her, according to what they think, right?
Mhm.
And so they're like, oh yeah, she's just on her rampage because of the synth. And then, like they find out from the witch that no, actually she drank the antidote. Like she should be like good. And this is just her like murdering the fuck out of this dude and taking her revenge on him. And and then she just vacuums him up all peaceful and calm and like nothing happened. Like
Mhm.
you couldn't just leave the ashes there. No, like you had to like make sure this is clean. I feel like that'd be a Sandra moment. Like I can't just like leave the dirt on the floor.
Yes,
I feel
that
like
is
the
totally a
chopping
me
him up
move.
would be me. The
But
chopping
like
him up would be me. The like I have to
cleaning it up
vacuum.
would be me. Yeah.
And then she escapes and she is wondering why like nobody has come to like get her because when an archangel dies, like time stops. And so it's very obvious to the entire world that he has died, right? And also, it's been streaming live for everybody in like Saturday Night Live like summit. And so she's like, why has nobody come for me? Like, this is weird. Like, I just spent like 5 minutes vacuuming up his ashes. Like, they should be here
Mhm.
by now. And then she steps out and she realizes that, in fact, it did work. And all of the gates are open for all of the little demons to get through. And so she goes, being Bryce, and she tries to start saving people. And she calls Juniper and she's like, Juniper, are you okay? And Juniper's like, yes, I'm okay. They're closing the doors. I'm trying to like get them to stall so that people can get in here, but it's a bunch of rich fucks who don't care. And so she's like, stall them as long as you can, but like make sure you're safe.
Yeah.
And Bryce gets going through like the town is killing everything on her way, and she's trying to make it to the meadows where the humans are and trying to save them.
The undefended. Like again, Bryce just having a bleeding heart for those who can't help themselves and have the smallest shot at surviving. That whole scene with Bryce running for all of the gates to try and do something about all of these demons from the different circles of hell coming out and just killing innocent people. Meanwhile, there's like shelters, locking down. And so she's trying to get innocent people into these shelters before night falls because it's quickly approaching dark out. And all of this while Micah injected Bryce with the synth
Mhm.
to initiate using the horn on her back to open these gates.
Mhm.
So he did succeed in doing that. And so Bryce is functioning off of all of this adrenaline. She does have access to her powers now that the venom is out of her thigh, but also with this synth being in her system. And this whole scene, I was crying on and off because everyone is sitting at the summit watching Bryce do it alone. And then you have the prime of the shifters come out and say, that's a wolf. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She has Danika's sword. He's like, no, that is a true wolf. That is what we used to be. And so he always struck me as kind of like this grandfather figure for Bryce
Very
because
dementia ridden, right? Like he
yeah,
turns out just like a little
but
bit.
he still knows like who Bryce is deep
Mhm.
down. Like her soul is good, right? And he sees that. Like he's there enough to be able to see that. And so that was like a very touching moment. But everyone is literally like, they cannot do anything. Fury can hop in her chopper, and go over there, but it's going to take 30 minutes. But Bryce is on her own doing this commando style.
Well, and
Just
Sabine is like, no, I refuse. Like, we've got to protect our own. And like the Fae, like the Autumn King is also like, no, I'm protecting my own. Like, I'm not going to send anybody out to help. I'm going to stay. So, yeah, she's on her own. And Hunt and Ruin and like all of them are like, just let us go. Like, we will go. Like, we want to save her, right? And like the witch is like, we've got to protect those that can't protect themselves.
mhm.
Like, that's what we are here for. She's like sends her witches to go get their little brooms, as Sandra mentioned, and they've all been destroyed. Like every way out of this summit has been destroyed. And so they're kind of just on their own. And Fury mentions, hey, I have a helicopter. We can use that, right? And like They're like, what? And she's like, well, it wasn't on site, so it's probably still good. So I just have to get it here. And so, like, she's having her helicopter sent over, and Ruin is like, I'm going. I don't fucking care what you say. And Hunt is like, I would like to go too. And that is when we find out that the queen can, in fact, remove his crown. And so she does. And she just lays her little hand on him and is acting like nothing's happening. Nothing, no big deal. And she is removing his crown. And Ruin, I think, figures this out, right? And he starts talking to Hunt through his head because that is a power of Ruin's that we did not know. He can, like,
that Daimati power, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind speaking.
They call it something else in this. They call it like telepathy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like not mind reading, but like yeah. Anyway, so he is telling Hunt like it'll be okay. I don't remember what he's telling him, but he's like telling him something. And then Hunt gets up and he murders Sandriel.
Yes,
like, I'm
finally.
gonna pay for this later. But he's like, well, her Triari is not here, or whatever it's called, Triari.
Yeah.
Is not here. They didn't come back, and that's like their first sign that like they aren't gonna help at all. Is they stayed away.
Well, they're not even on the same continent. They're back in Pangaea, right? Across the ocean right now.
Well, I don't know if they're back yet because like they were there earlier the day.
They were visiting.
So I think they're on their way. The hammer and whatever, like she didn't bring one of them.
The hind.
But then we also find out that she has told everybody about what Bryce is because right before that, Bryce tapped into her starborn powers to shut the gates, right? And I think that's after it was before she made the drop, right?
No, so Rune, back at the summit, Rune realizes that everything unfolding for Bryce being by herself is her ordeal happening.
It wasn't
real
Rune,
time.
it was Declan.
Or was it Declan?
Declan was like, this is her ordeal.
This is her ordeal, which is basically like her rite of passage, her challenge into becoming immortal or whatever that means for a fae like her. And so she comes to this realization because there's an old saying over the gate, the heart gate, that the power belongs to the people or something like that. I forget. Yeah.
Or whoever's with the people or something like that. And so, yeah, she taps into all of that power.
And then she makes the drop. And then everyone is losing their damn minds because she doesn't have an anchor. Because this was something that she had always planned with Danika. Danika, for them to be each other's anchor so that they don't fall and die doing this.
Never come up.
And so she is falling. And it's very much like this very intangible kind of place. It's almost like a different realm or between places, right? And she's just plummeting. She surpasses Rune's power. She surpasses even the Autumn King, doesn't she? Mm-hmm. Or she comes like very close, but like so much power, gets to the bottom. And who do we see?
Danika used her one little bit of like herself left, which was mentioned to Sabine by the Underking, that she had a little bit of herself left over on the other side. And she uses that to get in contact and to like help Bryce. But I thought, okay, so did she not use her starborn? Like, did she not say, I am the starborn and close the gates before she made the drop?
She closed only that one gate, but the rest were still open. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but everybody knew that she was the starborn, like knew that she had that power, which then Ruin was like, what the fuck?
She blinds the demons with her starlight power.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where I was confused because I'm like, I'm pretty sure she like told everybody because then Sandriel told the Asteri, and that's why Hunt killed her because he's like, you're telling them to basically come kill Bryce.
Yeah, because being starborn of that amount of power is a direct threat to the Asteri and everything that they stand for in this little political system that they have created.
She's as powerful as them because they are powerful because they're basically a star incarnate, right? And the starborn has the light of the star. But now we're finding out that she is in fact super powerful too, which is up there on the level of the Asteri.
What do you think is going on with Bryce having this much just raw starlight power?
Okay, so it's mentioned in the epilogue that there were two starborns, right? And one was a girl and one was a boy.
Thea.
Thea and I forgot like the prince's name, but
Was it Apollo?
No, it wasn't Apollo. Polyus or something like that.
Apollyon.
So our little friendly Prince of the Chasm, which I told Sandra that I really do like him. Like I don't know why, but
Aidas.
I'm liking him. So he has a conversation with Jesiba in the epilogue about that she has Thea's power, which they thought was gone. Like everybody has thought that that power like ceased to exist. And he knows it's her power because he's like, I will never forget that. And so I'm like, was he in love with her? Or did
That's
she
what
do
it sounds
something very
like.
bad? It sounded like love, but then I'm like, is she the one who like put him in hell, basically? Or what? Or was he in love with her? So we see that. And then we also have the fact that the seventh Asteri is dead, right? Like a long time ago. So I have multiple theories about this. Was that one Thea and her power? And so now that like Bryce has her power, they are concerned that she's going to step up to that seventh role and take over, because it sounds like that seventh role has been left the way it was because they were super powerful, right? Or another person that has died that we don't have a whole lot of information on that is also mentioned, because they also mentioned something about Hunt's dad and how he would be proud of his son. And like the little Prince of the Chasm is like, I think like Jesiba asks him what he thinks that Hunt's dad would think. And he's like, I think he'd be proud, but you knew him better than me. What do you think? And she doesn't answer that, right? Like she just kind of leaves that hanging. And so I'm thinking Hunt's dad is one of the princes of hell, or the under king, because both of those Jesiba might know fairly well, right? She seems like she's on the like dark side of things and like down with the dark side of things. So I think maybe it's one of those two. And I'm thinking maybe his mom was the seventh, because we don't know too much about her.
No, we just know that she died and she got sick and died and no one helped.
Right? After his dad left, we don't know anything else about her besides that she died.
There are a couple weird descriptors about Hunt. And so I think it was like hypaxia, maybe, or maybe it was someone else too, treating him very differently, because they referred to this around his forehead as like a dark crown, right? Yeah, it's a halo, like a thorn halo, but they refer to it as a dark crown. And they also keep bringing attention to his wings being like a very unique shade of gray. Unlike the rest of the angels that we have seen,
which
like
are white or like dark.
Yes,
like he's a mixture of good and evil.
And he has lightning, which I mean, like vast lightning power that no one has like seen the extent of yet, because he's been enslaved.
Which he takes out on Sandriel.
Yeah, he does take it out on her a little bit. We didn't talk about the scene with Aidas whenever Bryce summoned Aidas to the living room without telling Hunt, and Hunt got so pissed off at her, like, because you just summoned a prince of hell into your fucking living room. The temperature plummeted.
And she's like, I knew he wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah, which that's how she tells him the story of meeting Aidas when she was 13 years old. And I think he was in a cat form then, right?
And licking himself. And he was in a cat form when he was talking to Jesiba. And she's like, you know, you're not really a cat. You don't have to lick yourself. And he's like,
maybe I like it.
What if I like it? I'm just like, I love him. Like, I know that Sarah J Maas is going to rip out my heart. The second I say I love a character, he's going to like turn like the superest evil. But I like him. I like him a lot.
There's so much mystery about Aidas and Hunt's origins and Bryce's, heritage, and even Jesiba. What do you think Jesiba Roga's story is? I think I asked this
I don't
last time,
know.
but like there's just so much mystery about her.
Yes.
And like she tells Aidas that she moved the entire private library of books like to a different safe
Very
place,
quickly.
right? Very quickly. It's like she snapped her fingers and just like disappeared the books somewhere safe. So she's very invested in saving, you know, these kinds of records
And
and
all
text.
he asks her, like, if she did, and he's like, I'm not going to ask you where, but he was like, we need those safe, basically. And this library was the ancient human library, right?
Yes, a lost library
Of like all their books that was supposed to be like
destroyed.
out.
It's like the Library of Alexandria, type of thing.
So back to Bryce and her like drop. So she sees Danika and she's like, I don't want to go back. Like, I miss you too much. I don't want to go back. And Danika's like, you have to go back, basically. Like, I won't be able to stay here. Like, I'm going to disappear after this. And so I need you to go back and just know that I'm always in your heart, right? Like, I'm always there. And so Danika, like, basically tells her and helps her, like, ascend, right? And they're waiting, like, they have 6 minutes until their human body kind of dies from, like, no oxygen. And so, like, everybody at the summit is waiting for her to come back to life. Like, Declan is watching this and he's, like, got this little countdown and whatever. And at that time, Fury and everybody gets on the helicopter and they're leaving and they're, like, watching this countdown. And they see tanks roll in with, like, these bombs that are created by the Asteri. And they start shooting them because of fucking Sandriel. And, like, basically they're trying to kill Bryce.
The brimstone missiles.
Yeah. And so Bryce is trying to make it out, and you got these brimstone missiles shooting at the city, not caring. And then you also got like everybody watching, and the Autumn King is like, she doesn't have an anchor. There's no way she's gonna survive. Like, no way she's gonna make it back up. And like he's just given up on her, and everybody else is basically given up because they're like, there's no way. And Hunt's over here like, well, we're gonna do what we can. And so they all leave. They're watching it, and then she starts her ascent. And the Autumn King is still like, no, not gonna make it. Like, there's no way. Like, she doesn't have an anchor. It doesn't happen. And she's making it up and whatever. And so she does make it out, and she does close all of the gates. And like these bombs are hitting, and she is being destroyed. Like, she's using all of her power to close these gates, right? And the bombs are hitting, and like she heals everything with her first light from that drop, right? She closes the gates and she heals everything with that first drop, or that
Yes,
first light and the
because
drop.
Hunt had died as well because they came crashing down, right? Like they were the helicopter.
Like, well, Hunt came out of the helicopter. Like, his wings are still a little bit like
they're not strong enough.
but he like basically like parachuted down to get to her, and he's like doing compressions to keep her alive. And then she comes back, and he stops these compressions, and he's also using his lightning. It's like basically like the paddles, like clear. Yeah. And she comes back to life, and she's still like very weak, right? And he protects her with his body when one of the like bombs hits. And or no, like he protects her before she comes back to life. And she wakes up right after that, and his wings are like destroyed and all of that, but he gets healed, right?
Well, when she comes back to life, he's alive, and he's like, don't you ever do that to me again. Because before she made the drop, she whispered 3 words.
Oh, she whispered, I love you.
When he got completely mangled by the missiles and was like missing up, like his legs were mangled. Like he was like shredded up, like dead. And she whispered into his ear. And so it was like the power of love and her starlight power, like it brought him back and like closed all of the gates and stuff and started repairing the city. But it was one of those moments where she had to do this on her own, and she succeeded, but there were still other people along the way that were trying to help her. Like Ethan showed up, and she like tricked him and like shoved him into the shelter and which locked him in, and he was like pounding on the door trying to get out and help her. But yeah, she had Danika.
Yeah, because I think the bomb hit before she made the drop. And so when she made the drop, it healed him.
Yeah.
And he, like, she had, before she made the drop, she had whispered, "I love you." And then after, he's like, "You're such a coward to do that." When I was out, he's like, "But I
Called her a
heard you.
coward.
So, like,
Mhm.
I'm going to make sure you stay alive." And so then she woke up and she's like, "Did you just call me a coward?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah."
Their relationship, even with him meeting like the parents on the video call, like beforehand, when they're like trying to clean up the apartment, she's like, "My mom can tell when I haven't cleaned the apartment, and she can tell the difference between magic cleaned and hand cleaned."
And then she even says something about it. She's like, "When was the last time you cleaned?" She's like, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And then, like, so after, like, she made the drop, she's okay. They go and, like, go back to the apartment and meet, like, the little chimera, right? And she gets a call from the Asteri, Regulus or whatever his name is. And basically, he's like, "Hey, kind of a peace offering. Like, I'm gonna give you, like, I'm gonna do you a favor, but I need you to promise to, like, basically never come against us
Yeah, make a promise.
and to, like, not tell the secrets of what happened here. You know, like, not tell about, like, what happened to Sandriel, not tell what happened to Micah, not tell what you are, all of these things." And right before that, Hunt had, like, they had been getting frisky and her mom called and she's like, "You can't call me, like, you do all these things and, like, I'm scared." And, like, and so, like, Hunt is, like, off in the shower and, like, just thinking, he's like, you know, "We're about to start something, but, like, I'm probably dead," and getting very down on it. And so then she gets this other call, which is from Regulus, and he's like, "I'm going to do you this favor." And basically, the favor is he freed Hunt. And Hunt's tattoo changed from the SPQM to a C of the freed person. And, like, he came back in and he's like, "Huh? Huh? Like, what's going on?" And
C
she's
for
like, "Oh,
civitas. Uh-huh.
yeah." And so she's like, "Okay, like, I promise to not come against you," basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end with our epilogue of Jesiba and the little Prince of the Chasm cat having this conversation about Hunt's dad. And I think Jesiba also asked him why he never told her about Bryce,
Mm-hmm.
because she didn't know the full extent of Bryce. She just knew that Bryce was basically in her, like, protection from this Prince of the Chasm. Like, he basically put her into Jesiba's, like, orbit. And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me?"
With this book spanning 2 years, right, with a lot of flashbacks from when Bryce was 13 and even a little bit older when Danika found out about Bryce's power from the little gun battle that went down whenever Danika decided to go rescue some animal traffickers or animals from the traffickers. Now that this whole plot line is tied up with Danika's murder and the synth and, you know, Hunt's freedom and Likaba, anything you want to see in the next book?
I want to see the connection between, like, we have a little bit of the connection between the Prince of the Chasm, but, like, I think it's much more than he witnessed her right after her oracle. Like, I think he was there for a reason, and I think it's very much more. And I don't know if it's tied to Hunt or if it's tied to her, per se. Like, I think he's been pulling some strings, right? He's like our Aelin. Like, he's been pulling the strings and been, like, steps ahead of everybody else. And so I think he is going to play a big role, and I want to see, like, why. And like I said, I think he's been the one putting into place, like, Jesiba in her life and, like, the oracle and helping her figure out what that was and all of that stuff. So I want to figure out who's Hunt's daddy, which Sandra already told me is not in the second book. I had strong reactions to that.
Listeners, Tara always she'll send a text message to me asking a very pointed, spoilery question. Okay, and so what am I supposed to do? Just not answer? And so I said, hopefully we'll figure that out. Like, we can talk theories after the next book. So Tara goes, "Oh, gee, thanks. So we're not going to find out even in the next book, huh?"
I'm smart, guys. I can read between the lines.
I mentioned this in the last episode when we talked about House of Earth and Blood Part 1. But when we finish House of Sky and Breath, in a couple of weeks and talk about it. We will be at the same exact place in, Sarah J Maas's little story here, and we will get to talk all of the theories and all of the things because I am so excited, and it's getting to a point where I cannot just not tell you spoilers even.
Spoilers.
Yes.
My algorithm on my TikTok has picked up on the fact that I am reading these books. And so I have to be very, very careful not to get spoilers from that. And I did pick up on like a somewhat spoiler, not too bad, but like everybody's reaction to about halfway through the next book has been very, I don't want to say opinionated, but very strong. They've had very strong reactions to about halfway through the second book. So I'm also very interested to see what happens about halfway through the second book because like if everybody's having the same reaction, it's kind of like chapter 5 of this book. Like there were very strong reactions to chapter 5 of this book and shit went down, right? Like shit went down that affected the entire rest of the book. And I have a feeling that that is what happens in whatever chapter it is, about halfway through the book of the next one. So I'm very interested to see what that is. Like, I don't like not knowing things.
Oh, I know.
I'm not a very
kills
patient
you.
person.
I know. You like to investigate and do research and figure out all the things so that you can have fun and talk about it too. But next week, listeners, we will talk about the first half of House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas. I can't remember off the top of my head what chapters that is, but if you check out, our social media handle at Story Darlings, you can see what chapter breakdown is like right there. So we will cover the first half then.
And hopefully we will be able to cover whatever it is that I was just talking about.
Yes, we will. And we're going to have so much fun because now that we have finished Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, and then Crescent City very soon with the third book, which we will break into 2 parts and also discuss here on the show. We will dig into all of the things and hopefully have a fun time about it. So you're almost caught up with me, Tara. Woohoo!
I know.
My bestie reading these books that I love and with all of my heart.
They have been very good.
I just like the friendships.
I've enjoyed it. I think I might enjoy this one the best. If I had to like rank, so far this one is 1, Throne of Glass is 2, and ACOTAR is 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be a hot take because I think a lot of people like ACOTAR better. And
oh yeah.
I think my favorite parts of ACOTAR are the ones about Nesta. And again, through my algorithms on my TikTok, I am finding out that most people hate those books.
Yes.
And those are my favorite in the series of ACOTAR. So
no, even after the Nesta book, there's still a lot of people out there who just do not like her. And I love Nesta. I didn't at first just because I wanted to know more about why she is the way that she is. And then we got that. I love it because it broke perspective. All we've ever seen is Rhysand and Feyre's perspective. Of course, they're going to be treated as and painted as little darlings in your head. And it's not until you get Nesta's perspective and they're not so squeaky clean and perfect where we get to see the raw, like the realness of it, right? So I feel like I'm going to side with you, Tara. I feel like I love Crescent City most. And I think it is because of just how complex the relationships are and just some of the struggles that they have because they're more
with it.
Yes, there's so much grieving and depression and like working on the self in it. But that's also like Throne of Glass, I would say I like second best as well because of all the fellowship and friendship. And like Aelin was such a strong character. Like she can be abrasive to a lot of people. Like to a lot of people, they're not her favorite heroine in SJM books, but she was just so confident and powerful and she knew what she was about. And if you didn't like it, get the fuck out of her way type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one's one of my favorite because there's so much like, not world building, but kind of world building, but also so many like Easter eggs. Like so many spider webs of like getting to the end. Whereas with ACOTAR, there are some, like there's some very big ones, but I feel like it's more like a romance.
It's like a romance bubble, right? Because they're just like these
Yeah.
little fae creatures. You don't have the witches, you don't have the shifters.
I love romance. Don't get me wrong. I just think that there's maybe more to like Throne of Glass. Like I like both series, but I think that there's just more to Throne of Glass. It's not just love. It's not just like a thriller. It's not just a action. It's like combination.
Mm-hmm.
And Akatar is very like it is actiony and it is all of those things, but like its core is a love story.
Yes. And honestly, the last book of Akatar, A Court of Silver Flames, that's the first time that we get like the horrible trauma and the actual working on it and developing, you know, the Valkyrie friends. Like that's what speaks to me most because it's so relatable to Throne of Glass and Crescent City in a way, right? So I'm with you. I would say Crescent City, Throne of Glass, Akatar. Same. But I mean, I adore each for very different reasons. They're different kinds of series, but yeah. Totally. That's why we're besties.
I can't wait for like the potential that I'm hearing of these being a crossover in some way.
I mean, we've already had a crossover. Kingdom of Ash, chapter 99, and A Court of Silver Flames, chapter
I'm thinking we're going to see
40.
more. I'm thinking there's going to be a bigger crossover than just Aelin falling through the sky.
Would you stay off the damn TikTok?
No, that's not even from the TikTok.
Okay.
That's just like we've already had a little bit, but like why? Like Sarah J Maas doesn't throw things in for no reason.
This is true.
Like why throw this in if there's not more to it? And why throw in all of the information about like this isn't the only world if there's not more to that? Like that has been mentioned in this book like I don't know how many times, but over 10. That this is not the only world. There are others. We came from a different world. Like the Fae came from a different world. Like, why throw that shit in if it's not important?
The many-faced goddess. Like
so that's not even from my TikTok. That's just from me picking up and reading between some lines here.
I can't wait to discuss part 2 of the next book. Well, we're coming up on time now. We hope that you have enjoyed Tara and I just going on and on blabbering about House of Earth and Blood for the last 2 weeks. And we will dive into the first half of Sky and Breath next week. So if this is your first time tuning in, we hope you like and subscribe. And if you're a returning listener and you haven't rated and reviewed the show yet, please do. That is the best way to show your support for the show. And it means so much to have you with us. And we will see you next week.
You can also leave comments if there's a series that you want us to start after we finish with the Sarah J Maas universes.
Yeah.
So feel free to like say your favorite.
Yes. That reminds me. So we did start an Amazon book club. There might be 40 of you in that club now besides Tara and I. So thank you to everyone who's joined that book club. You can make book recommendations on that, and then we take a vote on that and across social media for what our little book club read will be after we're done with the SJM books. So I'll link that out in the show notes. Definitely join that if you want to be a part of our Story Darlings book club. So thank you, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.